What's poppin' gamers, it is me Leon and welcome back to another 7 Quick Tips video. This time around we're going to be taking a look at a style that a lot of people really like but don't usually try and build on their own. Japanese and other East Asian inspired fantasy builds. I gotta admit, it was pretty new to me too, but I did a good amount of research and practice for this video and now I'm a really big fan of the look. As we go through these building tips today, I'm going to be putting together a traditional Japanese style temple, koi pond, terrace, and Zen garden with custom trees. So be sure to stick around for the end result. Without further ado, let's get right into 7 quick tips for Japanese style builds in Minecraft. Shoutouts to all these lovely people who've suggested the video idea, and I apologize for not getting to it earlier. Before we go anywhere, familiarize yourself with the blocks that fit best for this general aesthetic. You guys are probably already aware of this, but there's definitely some iconic blocks that really give off the East Asian kind of vibes. It can vary a bit from build to build, and of course there isn't one definitive way to build in an Asian style, but if you're looking for a block palette to work with, here you go. For wood, I'm a big fan of using dark oak as your primary dark wood color. For lighter colored woods, your options open up a bit, but I could totally see either jungle or acacia as accent colors. Dark prismarine is another one you guys are probably familiar with. I think it goes best in rooftops and other areas where you want shingles, but of course regular old stone and andesite are good too. Bricks can look nice here, but I find that brick is better as a foundation block or an accent color. One cool thing about this style is that it gives you the opportunity to use a lot of funky, unconventional building blocks that you might not find a use for otherwise. I could see mushroom stems, brown mushroom blocks, barrels, looms, note blocks, and jungle items like trapdoors and fences all being very useful. So I'd say keep those weird blocks in your back pocket because you never know when they'll be the perfect block for your build. Now let's talk about biomes. If you're thinking about like some kind of Japanese temple build, to me it feels most at home in a swamp, plains, or a mountain biome. Not those new 1.18 snowy mountains though, that's a little bit too extreme. I'm talking like the classic hilly mountain biome. For the temple and Zen garden that we're building today, I think a flat, open plains biome right by the water would be best. So with all that explained, we've now got our core block palette, a handful of extra choices, and our biome of choice. Let's get into the build. It's worth trying to be a bit more creative with the shapes that you build your houses and your other structures in. Let's do some outlining and develop the general layout of our build. And as we do this, you'll notice that I'm going with a couple unconventional shapes. Oftentimes, these Asian style structures will have large, curved roofs that not only extend far past the exterior walls below them, but also have these cool horn designs. Real quick, I'm just gonna pause the building for a minute to show you guys a horned roof design. You'll need slabs, stairs, and full blocks for this one, but if you follow the schematic right here, it shouldn't be so bad. As for the walls, I see a lot of squares in East Asian architecture, but that doesn't mean we're going to be making plain flat walls. Be sure to add lots of interesting depth into your walls via windows, shelves, foundations, and all that other lovely stuff. Another thing that really stands out to me is the use of pillars. Look closely at most Japanese architecture and you'll see a ton of these guys holding up roofs, keeping walls together, outlining the different shapes of the build. Think about what kind of decor items are in line with an Asian style and which ones might look more out of place. The main accent colors that stick out to me when I think about Japanese builds are light pink, red, yellow, and vibrant green. Remember that the point of an accent color is to be an exciting, vibrant pop of color that draws the viewer's eye towards it. They're not meant to take up a lot of space in your build. The bright colors and textures would be kinda overwhelming. When I said pink, you probably thought of cherry trees, and that is totally correct. Stay tuned for a couple cherry tree designs I've got coming up. On top of pink though, there are many great options for green foliage such as oak leaves, bamboo, grass, and lily pads. Lastly, there are quite a few miscellaneous decor items that will work very well. Carpets and campfires can look like Japanese style straw floor mats, and of course you have things like lanterns, path blocks, walls, and fences and gates of your preferred wood color. It's hard to really give you a definite list because there are really that many options available to you. Remember that these are just my recommendations. It's much more important to experiment and find what you like the most. Cherry trees are a staple of this building style. I'd say try out a couple different designs. Some of you guys might have seen my cherry tree tutorial video that I put out a while back. It's still a cool design and definitely fits well with this whole vibe that we're working on today, but I think we can do a bit better than just one tiny little tree. I've already gone ahead and added several of these guys into my build, kind of like as background elements, but why don't we go ahead and add in a much larger cherry tree as a main component of our build. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling a time lapse. And there you have it. Quite a bit larger, yeah? In my opinion, these cherry trees and the lovely pink hues they bring are really important in a Japanese style build, so I just had to add them in. In addition to your main build, consider adding in a couple smaller, additional structures for decoration. One thing I noticed a lot of while looking into existing Asian style builds, as well as real-life architecture, is the prevalence of like additional smaller structures. On top of just having a house, a pagoda, or whatever structure you're working on, oftentimes you'll find things like big hanging lanterns, beautiful arched bridges, large overhead spirit gates, outdoor patios and seating areas, and lots of other really cool stuff. So I'd say keep this in mind as you build and don't spend all of your creative energy on one structure. Even if it means scaling back your ambitions for your house a little bit, having additional items scattered around your build, even if it's purely decoration, can really add a lot. Here's my build from before, and here's how it looks now that I've added a couple more decor items. It definitely feels a lot more complete. I recommend adding in some water and be sure to really decorate it, whether it's in the form of a waterfall, a garden pond like in my design, or even one of those long rectangular koi ponds. It's always nice to have water around, especially since you can really pretty it up. Japanese koi ponds are often full of beautiful lily pads, flowers, and other underwater greenery like kelp, grasses, and of course, the fish. And luckily for us, we can do a lot of these same things in Minecraft. Here's a cool little koi pond design. I think they look really good surrounded by a light gray stony texture like andesite or smooth stone, and you can see here how I've used lily pads, kelp, coral, and even salmon as a replacement for the koi. Here's a really cool pink aquatic flower design that I made in one of my older Building Better Biomes videos from a while back. It was originally intended to be an oasis flower, but I think it could totally fit in a Japanese style build too. If you like it, feel free to use it. This style is not survival friendly. As I've mentioned in tip number 1, a lot of these blocks are really hard to come by in survival, especially in the early game. Like dark prismarine, you're gonna need a serious guardian farm and a squid or wither rose farm if you want more than just a few blocks. Acacia wood, easier to come by, but it's definitely one of the more annoying trees to farm a lot of. Mushroom stems, yikes. Have fun decimating every dark oak forest. Same goes for the dark oak wood. All those pink blocks you need for those big cherry trees and whatnot are gonna require a lot of pink dye. And that's just scratching the surface. So if you're gonna be doing this in survival, putting together some large scale farms is probably the best idea. But if you don't want to do that, we can get away with a few substitutes. Instead of acacia and dark oak, using birch and spruce can work as your lighter and darker wood color. Stone bricks and andesite can substitute for dark prismarine in your roofs and stonework. It's not quite as cool or as colorful, but it works. And if you don't want to gather all that pink dye for cherry trees, that's okay. You can always add pops of color into your structure itself rather than in the foliage. There's nothing wrong with prioritizing easier to make decor like bamboo groves, bushes and shrubs, or even just plain grass. And lastly, you can use white concrete, snow, or even quartz in replacement of the mushroom stems. Once again, it's not perfect, but it's an okay substitution. Alrighty gamers, that is just about all the time I've got for today. If you're hearing this message right now, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. You're doing a lot to help out my channel, and I really love that. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed the builds from today. As I said in the beginning, I'm not the most familiar with this building style, so I really hope they came out well. Until next time, this has been Leon, and I'll see you all in the next 7 Quick Tips video. Stay cool, my dudes.